Welcome everybody back to the Pat and Mike show. It's been a minute since we've been on here, but as it seems like we're going to a more quarantine state, we're going to start bringing you guys some more information. And so we were talking internally about some options that people have when it comes to their pets. And you know, the funny thing is probably over the last 9 months, we all either now have a new pet because we had nothing else to do, or we know someone who has one. So we thought it'd be good to just, take a minute and talk about what are people's options when it comes to planning for maybe their more loved ones. We all have kids, but we might love our pets more. So we got Casey on here today who's going to kind of guide us through some options when it comes to planning for, your furry little friends, or maybe even, more like if you have horses or whatever you got, there's options, right, Casey?
Yeah, absolutely. So the principal legal vehicle in our law today for dealing with pets when somebody passes away is the pet trust. But what is a pet trust, right? So really, it can be its own standalone document, but typically it's more likely to be an article you're including in your own estate planning that's just going to lay out kind of rules or guidelines for how your animal is to be taken care of when you pass away. And then also establishing a fund to, help facilitate that standard of care to make sure that the animal is comfortable and taken care of throughout the duration of its life, should your pets survive you.
Yeah, because I just remember in law school when they're like, pets are just considered personal property. And I'm like, what? These are like my kids. See, here's my little furry friends. I've got 2 Labrador retrievers. Those are the girls too, but sometimes I'm like, they get along with me better than my own kids do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a good point, right? So under Michigan law, and this is probably the first takeaway, at least that I would like everybody to have, is that Michigan law thinks of your pet as akin to a piece of furniture or a table. The law thinks about it as personal property. And obviously, I think just about every pet owner in the world would be aghast at that conception, right? Like Mike, you're saying, the pet, the dog, horse, whatever, is probably on the same level as your kids. But because the law looks at your animal like a piece of property, we oftentimes need to do a little bit more legwork on the legal side of things to make sure that the pet is going to be taken care of, just like the kids will be taken care of once you're no longer here.
And so, Casey, is this one of those situations where, this would only apply for someone like Leona Helmsley, who's looking to leave, 20, 30 million bucks to a dog? It's those kinds of things we're talking about, right?
Absolutely not. So, and that's an important aspect. So the more intrepid listener, when I mentioned leaving a fund for the animal, might have started to think, ooh, maybe this is a way around some sort of tax regulations. I can just leave a bunch of money to my pet trust, but really leave it for somebody else. And Michigan law actually has considered that potential option. So there is a aspect of the law which states that the amount of money left for the pet trust for the care of your animal or animals needs to be relative to what they would normally need for the duration of their lifetime. Meaning, let's say you spend $1,000 per year on your pets, and you're estimating about conceivably 5 years after your passing, your pets would still be around. Then $5,000 would be a suitable amount to leave in the fund. The court does have the authority to strike down and lower any sort of value that's left to a pet trust that would be in excess of what the court considers reasonable. So just to say, you can, if you spend $10,000 on your pet's care per year, as long as that's what you've normally spent, you can leave, a good chunk of change to make sure that your pets are maintaining their normal standard of living that they've grown accustomed to. That's perfectly fine. But you can't leave so much in excess that it could just never conceivably be used for your pet's care when you're no longer around.
And that really runs a spectrum there, depending on type of pets, health conditions, things like that. Because, you've got a really different proposal there for a healthy, 3-year-old yellow lab as you do for a saltwater aquarium or an older horse or, tortoises or parrots or just all the different animals that people make a part of their lives.
Yeah, because pets run such a diverse spectrum, pet trusts are really not cookie cutter. They're going to be highly individualized to every single client that is setting up a pet trust. What makes sense for one type of animal is going to be completely irrelevant to a different type of animal. It's really going to come down to what your needs are as a client in terms of, would you like to have maybe multiple people taking care of the animal, or, maybe I want my sibling to take care of the animal, but I'd like my kids to check in every once in a while and make sure the animal is being taken care of adequately. All the way up to, are we talking about a parrot that might outlive you for 70 years? Or are we talking about a dog who realistically we're talking about the 5 to 10 year range, and everything in between. So just to say that anybody who is interested in setting up a pet trust, I would definitely encourage you to set up an initial consultation with our firm, because we're really going to need to get to know you a little bit better and find out a little bit more about your unique family dynamic as well as your pet's situations to best plan and prepare for your passing and for that animal to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm. And I think in addition, so what you were saying there, Casey, some of those kind of outlier situations. I mean, some of the planning that we've done and that attorneys in our firm have done over the years, things from, a tortoise that can live, 60, 80, 100 plus years. I personally had one for an African gray parrot. They have a life expectancy of 60 plus years, and all the medical and stuff that goes along with that. Because you've got kind of those outliers, those more obvious ones. I mean, you have a horse that you're leaving to someone. Obviously, there's some work that goes along with boarding and caring for them. But also, even with just a dog, a cat, I don't say just, but the more common pets, there is a big difference, I think, and every pet owner knows this. At some point, the dog's not doing well because they were fine, and then they're sick at 2 a.m. and you're rushing to the emergency vet, and you're concerned about the dog, but you're also concerned about the vet bill. There are plenty of situations where if you're leaving someone a pet, particularly an older pet, there might be cost that goes along with it, and they'd be more than happy to take care of them. But are they in a position to front, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 if the dog or the cat or whatever it may be needs it for their care? And so that's an important factor too, because a pet, as we all know, a pet is not just toy. A pet is responsibility. A pet is, there's a lot that goes along with that.
Yeah, two things that I've been thinking about while you guys were talking is first how so many people underestimate the value of, or not value, but just the cost of taking care of a pet. A quick story that I have with one of my labs is, this is around the time where that movie Molly and Me came out. Yeah. And so one of our dogs was like, it almost looked like it was a chocolate lab. It almost looked like it was having a seizure, and it was kind of like unresponsive. And so, of course, this is middle of the night. It's not during business hours. Rushed to the ER. They think it was the same. They're guessing it was the same situation, where the stomach had flipped like in that movie, and X-rays, everything comes back fine. Just happened to have been a stomach ache, and to the tune of about $900.
Yep.
So, these things happen. One of our older Labradors, they just recommended that they be put on meds for their arthritis for like $200 a month. It's like, this stuff isn't covered under insurance, and you don't anticipate it. You typically think once a year to the vet, couple $100, no big deal. But there's a lot that goes into it. It's almost more difficult to get our in-laws to watch our pets than it is our kids these days with how much that they have going on. But, that being said, also it made me think of, so often I'm sure you guys get the same question, how much assets do I need to have a trust, right? That's a common question. But this is a clear example of just specific instructions that need to be in a document that have no ties to the amount of assets you have. It's just more so as, this is how I want my pets to be cared for. This is who I want to care for them. A little chunk of money that I might put aside for their care. And so this is just a great example of why asset levels have nothing to do with this type of control or decision making after you might be incapacitated or pass away.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're saying, leaving a pet to somebody is giving them so much responsibility for that animal's care. And kind of in a pet trust, that might manifest itself in a couple of different ways. Maybe you're not exactly sure who in your life you could leave the animal to. In that case, maybe we're setting up the pet trust just to list potential options, to also facilitate those conversations with those individuals to make sure, hey, I know I'm leaving you a responsibility, but I'm also going to make sure that the financials are handled for that responsibility. But conversely, the other end of the spectrum is, maybe you've got a couple of kids, they've grown up with the family dog. You're thinking, if something ever happens to me, like I don't even need a pet trust. The kids will take care of the dog. They love the dog. But the problem can become, well, maybe both of the kids love the dog so much that they want to take ownership of the dog and they don't want it to go to their sibling. Again, that might be a good way or good meaning for having a pet trust to clearly establish, almost who's going to be taking ownership of that animal and, what that split might end up being. So just to say that we can kind of craft these documents and different aspects of the documents cover all sorts of different situations.
Definitely. That's one that I just have to draw a little bit of attention to as we're coming to wrapping up here is a lot of the times we've all of us heard, more times than we can count, oh, it's okay. The kids will just figure it out. The kids will just figure it out. And yeah, that is a wonderful way to get them yelling at each other in our office and having us play referee in those situations. Because what you're doing is you are setting it up for conflict. You're saying, you know what, that's kind of a tricky decision for me to make now. Rather than make that decision now, cold, clear-minded, and sober, I'm just going to punt it. So my kids have to figure that out in the emotional turmoil right after their parent has passed. Is that the best state of mind to be in I've lost my mom, and now I'm losing the dog too, my brother, who never walked the dog. I always had to walk the dog, and now and now we're off to the races. Where it might seem like a minor issue, but those are the type of things people seem to think people only quibble when there's $1 million on the line. People will fight over a vase, over $5,000, they'll fight over a puppy. And so, clarifying that up front is a huge favor to your kids, to your family, just to short circuit that, to have that not even be in a discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I would almost venture to say that people oftentimes quibble less about the money, even if there's a large sum, and more so about the sentimental items, whether that is the family pets or the heirloom, whatever that they have that emotional attachment to. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, those are oftentimes the things that when setting up an estate plan, whoever's setting it up is not fully contemplating what is going to happen with these sentimental aspects of our lives, like our pets. That is what is going to cause the most strife almost every single time.
Yeah. And don't be saying, oh, don't worry, when I'm gone, you'll get the dog, you'll get the cat. If you tell someone that, or heaven forbid, tell multiple kids that, now we're really in trouble. So doing it right, doing it properly, really saves a lot of headaches down the road.
Absolutely.
For sure. Guys, great information. We'll keep it a little bit short today. If you do have follow-up questions, though, feel free to comment when we post it to our YouTube channel. You can also get in touch with us at rutkowskilawfirm.com. There's a contact us section there. Facebook, you'll find us all over the internet. So just, check us out there. If you'd like to schedule a consultation, give us a call at 1-800-ESTATES, but appreciate the time. And Case, there we go.
There we go.
There we go. Guest appearance.
Yeah, Mac had to come join. So yeah, this is my little 1-year-old golden retriever. So yeah, we're all pet people here as well. And we're happy to make sure that your pets are taken care of both during your lifetime and afterwards.
Very good. All right.
Good.
Take care.
See you guys.
Take care, everybody.